welcome to the Get the Bag podcast. I'm Kelly, your host, and on today's episode, we have in the house Mr. D. Ross.
What up? What up?
Yes, thanks for coming out today.
Yes, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yes, so let me brag about my brother a little bit. He
Uh,
has got so much going on, y'all. He just opened the Ross Center,
yes,
right?
yes,
Got lots of things going on in the fire, both for profit, non for profit. I mean, this
man,
man is a serial entrepreneur.
man.
He is definitely about that life. So he's going to drop some gems on us today and tell us what it's like to be an entrepreneur, right? And
Yes,
all the things that he has going on. So, you want to tell us how you got started?
yeah. So start with the Ross Foundation, my non-for-profit, and just because it's called a non-for-profit doesn't mean it's not a business. It is a business. That's the first mistake a lot of people make when they start a non-for-profit. They don't operate it as a business.
Right, right.
But I founded the Ross Foundation 2014, became an official 501c3 in 2016. So we've been around putting in work. Our mission is to end poverty and get to the root causes of why people are selling drugs in the first place, why people are shooting each other in the first place. A lot of people want to incriminate people that for the aftermath, but they never ask why.
Mm,
They never ask why are they killing each other in the first place? How did they get here? When you watch the news or the media today, when you see a gun violence happening in our communities,
mm,
so many people shot over the Fourth of July weekend, right? But they never focus on what substance abuse they was off of. They never
absolutely.
focus on what mental state they was on. They never focus on the build up to this tragedy.
Mm,
That's what we focus on. We focus on the root causes to why people are homeless, why people are hungry, why people are killing each other, why violence is in our community. We focus on all those different things because our mission is to end poverty and, by any means necessary. So the Ross Foundation came about me growing up on the Far Eastside of Indianapolis,
mm.
born and raised on 42nd and Post Road. And y'all know that area. Everybody should know about 42nd and Post Road. There's not a lot of opportunities. It has one of the biggest food deserts in the Midwest. Been in the top of the charts for violence and gun violence
Mm,
every other year. And so I grew up in poverty.
yes.
I didn't have options. I didn't even have a grocery store, and I was stuck in survival mode.
Mm-hmm,
And I never thought about thriving.
mm-hmm,
I didn't even think about starting a business. I didn't even think about sustaining. I didn't think about assets. I didn't think about investments. I didn't think about any of those different things. All I wanted to do was either be a drug dealer
mm-hmm,
or be a basketball player.
mm-hmm.
And those were the only things that was presented in front of me coming up. So now with the Ross Foundation, what I'm doing is when I was a drug dealer,
Mm-hmm.
I had so many different skill sets
Mm-hmm.
that I didn't know I naturally inherited.
Mm-hmm.
And then when I started my nonprofit and my for profits, I was able to cross over those skill sets into a more legal term.
Mm. So let's talk about those skill sets. What do you think that you learned in that process, and how did you
Man,
flip it?
whew. You know, one of my things I do right now is real estate, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so when I go on a block today and I'm teaching people how to get into real estate,
Mm-hmm.
I tell them, man, instead of trying to flip some pounds and bricks, we could be flipping homes.
Right.
We are natural entrepreneurs. We just selling the wrong product,
Exactly.
and so that's what I'm trying to push out. But they gotta see it,
Mm-hmm.
model in front of them. They're not gonna believe it until they actually can visualize it.
Mm-hmm.
And so, me being from that area
Mm-hmm.
and used to be on the block with them, now they could see the model.
Mm-hmm.
Now they could see the blueprint. Because man, D was just out on the block, gang banging, and shootouts and selling drugs with us, partying every night. He
Mm-hmm.
changed his life around for the better.
Mm-hmm.
So if he can do it, why not me? why
Absolutely.
can't I
Why
do
not
it?
me? Right. So what do you have going on right now?
Man, so So we got the Ross Foundation nonprofit. We just opened up our community center, the Ross Center. Uh, we just launched. I just launched another business. It's called the Root Therapy.
All right.
It's a mental health agency. Um,
Because
and
mental health is so important in our community, right?
especially during COVID, right?
Yeah.
Disproportionately, black people are impacted by mental illnesses more than any other background or race. And, it's a stigma around therapy,
Hmm.
especially in the black community. And so it's our job to normalize therapy.
Absolutely.
And we have to overcome the systemic racism, systemic poverty, the systemic conditions that we are upon about. And so I created this mental health agency. We are the first black-owned mental health and trauma clinic. Well, the only mental health and trauma clinic on the Far Eastside of Indianapolis.
Speak to it, because I've done the research. I was on the ground
Come
level
on.
trying to find a mental health facility on the Far East Side.
Yeah, so what we're doing is changing the narrative.
Right.
And to backpedal, the Ross Center is the youngest. I'm the youngest person to open up a community center in Indiana. And also we have the D. Ross Community Park.
Yes.
Only person alive with their own park, named after them.
Mhm.
But what I'm trying to do is instill hope.
Yeah.
Give them something they could grab onto right now versus waiting until I'm dead. And so the mental health agency is a component where we're targeting black and brown communities intentionally. We have culturally sensitive therapists on staff. We do accept Medicaid. And we work with people who don't have health care, who have a disadvantage.
That's awesome.
And also the biggest component is we do mental health education.
Yes.
And so it's two sides of the mental health agency. We have one side that's more for profit through the Medicaid system. Then the other side is more nonprofit, where we're giving back, because a lot of people just need to be educated about their behaviors, their emotions, their mental state. A lot of people just don't know. You ever had that feeling when you wake up in the morning, you just don't know why you feeling sad, why you feeling angry, or you just upset at the world and you don't know, or you want to be isolated from everybody, just want to be alone, or you feel alone or abandoned,
Yeah.
and you don't know where it came from.
And this is a challenge to even recognize that actual feeling, right?
Man, it is a challenge, and so that's why we want to have the mental health education. So the biggest reason why the mental health agency came about is all those things I said, but also if you think about a nonprofit, most nonprofits start with a for-profit.
Yeah.
And you think about wealthy people, they created a nonprofit for tax purposes. Most of them, like 90%. We started backwards. We started a nonprofit just to give back. But we want to get away from just depending on grants and government entity funding. And so we had to figure out what can we do to bring in our own streams of revenue to sustain our nonprofit business. So inside the Ross Center will be our mental health agency.
Yeah.
Instead of us looking for money to sustain the Ross Center, the mental health agency is going to be able to sustain those resources and building facility operations based off that agency. Full-time therapists there can make $10,000 a month. Do the math.
Gems, y'all. He flipped the game.
Yeah, exactly. And so now we giving back and making money and sustaining, because it's about creating a legacy. You don't want to create something that's not going to last for 100+ years. You want to put something in motion. Like I tell anybody, don't start a business if you ain't here for the long haul.
Yeah.
Don't just do it for the short haul, because you doing a disservice to yourself. You got to give your you got to be fully invested into your business, and you got to think about generational wealth, right? And generational wealth is being able to sustain something into the next generation, so they could take the ropes and take it from there. especially in your family pipeline.
And so everybody's really talking about generational wealth, generational wealth.
Yeah.
What have you done in the community that promotes that generational wealth?
So I look at so everybody ties generational wealth to money.
Mm-hmm.
Generational wealth is so much bigger than just money.
Yeah.
I mean, it's assets, but also it's mental health.
Yes.
If you are changing, if you are breaking generational curses within your family, generational norms within your family, then that is generational wealth.
Mm-hmm.
Because now they are being in position, they are coming into this world in a position to focus on thriving.
Yeah.
And not surviving.
Absolutely.
You know, and they don't have to worry about reliving the generational traumas passed down
Mm-hmm.
from their parents and grandparents or their environment, and they are mentally prepared for this world. That's generational wealth to me.
Yes.
And so, man, I tell people success is also, it's not about how much money you have.
Mm-hmm.
It's about how much time you have.
Mm-hmm.
And so, like, a lot of people work 9 to 5s or for 40 plus years, and they come out retired at 60 or 70. When they come out retired, you know, like, now they want to live.
Yeah.
Well, you about to die. So
Time
it's
is
like
short.
time is short to live your life now.
Yeah.
So I tell, and then the same thing in the streets.
Mm-hmm.
Some like you're, you know, running the streets, you are cutting down your life,
Mm-hmm.
your time to live.
Mm-hmm.
So I tell people all the time this quote I always say: we need to stop living to die
Mm-hmm.
and start dying to live.
And that's real talk, and we got to take care of ourselves.
Yes.
So with everything you got going on with the profit, the for-profit stuff, the park, everything, all the things that you're a part of, because y'all, he make moves, right? He all over the city.
Man, I got
How do you balance it all?
man, because I just launched another business. I got a whole staffing agency.
He about to have like a dozen. He about to have like a dozen eggs up in here.
You know what I'm saying? Like, because the way I do it is, like, I operate around passion.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's easy for me to balance because what I do
Mm-hmm.
is healing for me.
Awesome.
So my work is therapy.
Mm-hmm.
So anything I'm creating and bringing into this world is a part of helping me heal, and our community heal. And so I operate around the need. I don't just create a business that's not needed.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people want to just create a business that's not needed.
Mm-hmm. And that's real talk, because if it's not needed, who do you sell to, right?
Man,
Who do you
who's your
serve, right?
consumers?
And so a lot of people come up with an idea, but they don't always have a vision of who will this affect and
Yeah.
how will this make money, right? Got to have an audience to have a business.
Man, and you got to think about it. I grew up on the Far Eastside, so we got one of the top rates of unemployment.
Mm-hmm.
And so it made sense for me to start a staffing agency that was different from all the other staffing agencies. You got Elwood, you got Kelly Services, you got all these different ones, but they take so much money off
Mm-hmm.
the employer pay. And so when the employer is giving Kelly Services $25 an hour,
Mm-hmm.
they'll take $7 off
Mm-hmm.
and pay you $18 an hour. No, I want to flip that.
Mm-hmm.
I want to cut that middleman because it ain't about the money for me.
Right.
I want my people to be in a position to thrive. So we may take a couple dollars off,
Mm-hmm.
but we ain't taking no $7 off. No, we want to put that back. We want to invest that back into you.
Mm-hmm.
You right? And we want to make sure that you mentally prepared.
Mm-hmm.
Let's go back to that generational wealth thinking. Like, a lot of people want to have job fairs and just send people out, but they never do the follow up. Most of those people who get those jobs probably don't last 90 days.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's small ratio. It's a small percentage that makes it long term because we didn't tackle the root causes. We didn't mentally prepare them for them to emotionally be able to sustain that job. This is a new environment that they are going into, and so, and then jobs is not for everybody.
Right.
I tell everybody, if you're going to work a 9 to 5, have a plan.
Yeah.
If you're going to go to college, have a plan.
Mhm.
Know what you're going to college for.
Mhm.
Don't go to college if you don't have a plan. You don't know what you want to be.
Mhm. Wasting money.
You wasting money.
Yeah.
Don't get this job if you don't have a plan.
Yeah.
Like I even tell people in the streets,
Yeah.
don't risk going to jail if you don't got a plan.
Right. So making sure you got to focus, right? 'Cause without a focus, where you going, right?
Man, you gotta have a vision because it's like the plan is everything.
Mhm.
When I transitioned out of the streets, like I had a plan.
Mhm.
But the thing is, what we need to do is have a support system around that plan.
Mhm. So speaking of the plan, what's next? What's next for D. Ross?
Man, what's next for me is I ain't done launching businesses. I'm 32, so like,
Okay.
so what I'm trying to do is now put people in position to run the businesses,
Mhm.
so I can just travel. And I'm dropping a book called "Why Not Me." You know, talking about my whole journey, my life.
Mhm.
But I feel like my purpose
Mhm.
is to inspire millions of people to look in the mirror and say, "Why not me?"
Mhm. Tell us where we can find that book at.
Oh man, so definitely on all social media outlets, you can find me on D Ross, DEE Ross, ROSS. I mean, it's gonna be everywhere. It's gonna be on Amazon. It's gonna be on Kindle. It's gonna be everywhere. Like
What's the drop date?
the
Because we
drop,
want to be on the lookout, right?
whew, the drop day is August, and
August.
so
Okay.
I'm I'm a perfectionist in a sense, a little bit. So I want to make sure that I'm giving my all in this book. Like I don't want to put out anything that's not going to be impactful,
Mhm.
you know. And I want this to be this is my baby. It's called Why Not Me, and that's my slogan that I go by. And so I want to inspire people. I really want to inspire people across the world, and I want to be able to travel, go talk to different universities, different colleges. I mean, I do it here statewide,
Mhm.
but I feel like my vision is global, and so I tell
Mhm.
I tell people all the time, don't put a ceiling on your dreams,
Yes.
you know. And at times when I was growing up on Post Road, I didn't like I was only just cling to Post Road.
Mhm.
I never saw myself traveling. I never saw like when I went to downtown, I felt like it was a different city.
Mhm.
When I went to Hallville, I thought it was a different state.
Mhm.
When I went to Avon, I thought it was a different country.
Mhm.
So I stayed in my norms. I was like, I ain't
Mhm.
going. So imagine going to a different state or a different country.
Yeah.
And so I tell people, um, you need to get exposed to
Mhm.
life
Absolutely.
because it's going to help your business.
Mhm.
When you start understanding the culture you living in
Mhm.
across the world,
Yeah.
start thinking global
Yeah.
instead of local.
Mhm.
That's how you know you got a business. Because if your business can make it globally,
Mhm.
then that's something that's something you need to wrap your arms around. Because if you just thinking local, you're thinking too small minded.
Mhm.
We got to open our minds to the world. You think about Nike,
Mhm.
think about Google, think about Amazon, you think about all these businesses. They may have started local,
Mhm.
but their vision was always global.
Yeah. So, as an entrepreneur, a serial entrepreneur, and balancing all the things that you're balancing, what advice do you have
Yeah,
on how to take care of yourself
man.
for other entrepreneurs that are
Mm.
up and coming, who have they got families, they got, a lot of things going on, a lot of pots in the fire, right?
Yeah,
How would you, what would you advise them to do in order to balance that all out
man.
and be able to take care of themselves
Yeah,
and give back to their community in the process?
you gotta learn how to say no.
Hmm.
You know, sometimes we can be too selfless,
Yeah.
and and so you gotta have a balance of being selfless, and self care.
Yeah.
Every entrepreneur I deal with, even including myself, if you don't tackle self care,
Hmm.
if you don't make that a priority, your business may fail.
Yeah.
You have a higher percentage of your business failing if you're not prioritizing self care. Because you got to understand when you running a business or starting a business, it comes with anxiety, it comes with stress, it comes with different worries, it comes with things backfiring or not going according to plan. You got to be mentally prepared
Mm-hmm.
for those hiccups, for those roadblocks, so you could weather the storm. And so I tell people like I'm in therapy. Like I talk about everything.
Mm-hmm.
All my businesses, my life, everything, because everything is interconnected, whether you like it or not.
Mm-hmm.
Everything impacts the other, and so whether you trying to separate your businesses from your personal life, it's hard
Yeah.
because if you're not happy at home, or you still suffering from trauma, or childhood trauma,
Mm-hmm.
or abandonment, or have a mental illness, that whether you like it or not is going some way or somehow is going to impact your business.
Absolutely. I see that a lot with some of the entrepreneurs that I teach. Those traumas end up holding them back,
Hmm.
whether it's speaking or putting themselves out front. I actually had a student who had been minimizing herself because she had to do that from her trauma, right?
Yeah.
She learned that behavior. And so I think it's so awesome that you bring up that, you sometimes you need to go to therapy, prepare yourself mentally to deal with the things that come along with having a business, right? Because you got to be able to talk about your business, right? You got to be able to talk about yourself. And if you can't do
Man.
those things,
Cause,
then how do you promote and grow that
because
business?
because your story is the seller. It's the
Mm-hmm.
number one seller for anyone buying your product. They want
Absolutely.
to know the reason behind the business.
Mm-hmm.
And that goes back to social entrepreneurship.
Yes.
If you got to start people need to start looking at it as how can I impact this world
Mm-hmm.
with this business?
Mm-hmm.
How can I help people with this business?
Yes.
How can I change lives with this business? How can I fill a need with
Mm-hmm.
this business?
Yes.
And then, what is your personal tie to it?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you don't have no personal connection, that passion,
Mm-hmm.
the reason behind it, then the buyer is not going to believe in your business.
Absolutely.
And so you got to have that mission
Mm-hmm.
and that story. And you got to have that why. You got to know your why as an entrepreneur.
Yes. Meet y'all. Got to know your why.
Yeah, straight up.
Thank you so much for dropping by
Yeah.
and sharing all this knowledge with us. Can you tell people where they can find you at if they want to get with D. Ross, they want to donate to D. Ross, or come alongside the Ross Center? Hit us up with some information to be able to contact
Oh, before I say that, I want to mention one more thing.
you. Mm-hmm.
Uh, don't get discouraged if you don't have the titles and the accolades
Mm.
or the education
Come on with it.
to start that business. Your story is enough.
Mm-hmm.
Your experiences is enough. That your why is enough.
Mm-hmm. Don't make me say preach, preacher.
And I always talk about human capital.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to have a PhD in social work to start a social work business
Mm-hmm.
because you already have a PhD in your community, so you know how things socially works.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get discouraged. Leap, as Steve Harvey says.
Mm-hmm.
I would say find me on all again social media outlets at D Ross, DEE Ross ROSS. You could look up the Ross Foundation at the Ross Foundation Community.org. Man, look out for Why Not Me book. I'm gonna have a website soon, so don't worry about that. It's coming for sure. And yeah, like if you wanna tap into what I got going on, and or you need somebody to pour into you, hey, I'm here for that too.
All right. Well, as always,
Yeah,
make sure that we do what?
get the
Get the
bag.
bag.
Hey.
All right. Thank you guys. The evolution of your small business starts today. Sign up for our partners Verizon Small Business Digital Ready platform, a free service to you to advance your business. Check the link below and click on that, and it'll take you right to our Verizon Wireless link.